And the only thing I said to God was, I'm sorry. I didn't pray for God to save me. I didn't pray for God to heal me. I didn't pray for God to give me more time. I didn't pray, thank you, which probably would have been very appropriate. I didn't pray, God, your will be done. I didn't pray for my family. I prayed, I'm sorry. Because of the selfish things that I had done. The greedy desires, the lustful thoughts, the missed opportunities, the arrogance that I had enacted in my life. I found deep within me a sense of regret that I never knew existed. I'm not telling you this because I think that's the right way to pray. In fact, I think it's the wrong way to pray. I think it's bad. I would much rather be standing here before you saying that I prayed that God watch over my daughter over the coming years and take care of Tara, make sure that all of her needs are met, and find her somebody else to replace me, somebody that will love her. So I think actually it was a bad prayer. Not necessarily bad, but certainly not the best prayer that one could pray at that time. I would much rather be standing here telling you that I said to God, I'm ready. I'm eager. Take me home. Here we come. But don't compare yourself to me. Don't say to yourself, well, if the pastor gets to death's door and says, I did a bad job, then I might as well give up. Right? Don't think that. Because God has given each of us a calling in our life. God has given each of us abilities. God has given each of us gifts and calls each of us to follow Him in our own life. Ask yourself this question. Am I living for God the best that I am able? Am I living for God as best as He has enabled me? If you answered no to that question, let me strongly encourage you as one who knows you do not want to stand at death's door and realize that the thing you need to say most to God is, I'm sorry for not living as best you enabled me to. Trust me, it doesn't feel good to say that. Live your life each day to the fullest for God's glory. Obey His calling each day as best He enables you. That doesn't mean just on Sunday. It means each and every day. Worshiping God Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, right? I forgot Friday. Somebody should say you forgot Friday, right? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Worshiping God every day. It means talking about Jesus to others at every opportunity. It means being close to God all the time and learning from Him what it means to love your family with your whole heart. If you said, no, I'm not living for God as best as I am able, today is your day to start. Because God tells us here that none of these things that we've just looked at can separate us from His love. None of these things will separate us from His love. So we don't have any excuse not to live each moment for God. See, look at the next verse. In all these things, we are defeated. Right? In all these things, we are conquerors. Right? No. In all these things, we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. In what things is He talking about? In hardship, distress, persecution, famine, nakedness, peril, sword, whatever it is. In all these things, we are more than conquerors, more than victorious, more than empowered to overcome. We are drawn closer to God by these things. We learn more to rely on God. In all these things, we are more than conquerors because we learn to grow. We become super conquerors through Him. Never forget the end of that verse. Through Him who loved us. And maybe this is why Paul opened up his passage, the verse that we skipped over, and it's not on the overhead. All these things work to the good of those who love God. Because he was getting ready to talk about all these difficult situations for Christians who were experiencing them. Persecution and the sword. Literally they were experiencing the sword because people were killing them with the sword. Much like they're doing in Indonesia and 52 other countries, or 51 other countries in the world. So Paul was telling them, in all these things, we are more than conquerors. All these things work to the good for those who love God. In hardship, peril, famine, sword, whichever they are, they work to God's glory. So Paul implies that none of these will separate us from the love of God, but will in fact unite us even more closely with Him than we were before. But does that mean that nothing at all will separate us? This is not an exhaustive list of all the possible things that could ever happen to us, is it? What's that? So you're jumping ahead, right? Let's go on to the next verse, 38, and this is on the overhead. For I am convinced, this is Paul, that neither... Why don't we read this together? Will you join me? For I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. We've already talked about death and how it doesn't necessarily separate us, how it doesn't have the power to separate us. But what about life? Why would Paul say life can't separate us from God? You have to understand one thing about figure of speech in Hebrew is they use polar opposites to mean everything in between. So when Paul says neither life nor death, it means everything in between life nor death. When he says height or depth, he means everything, no matter where you are. So he's talking about all things, and he concludes by making that very clear. But also, if we think about it, how could life lead us away from God? Isn't it ironic that death might draw us close, but life actually might make us be separated? We get so busy, or maybe we get so much, the abundant life, we get so much that we think we don't need God. We get so busy we don't think about God. So life itself actually becomes something that pushes us away from God. But people who are nearing death think very acutely about God. But Paul goes on and says, neither angels, nor rulers, nor powers. Paul says angels don't separate us from God's love. Why would he think that angels could separate us from God's love? Satan's an angel, right? You've got good angels and you've got bad angels. You've got heavenly angels and hellish angels. Demons do exist. And they take every opportunity to deceive us into ignoring, devaluing, and not pursuing our relationship with God. Rulers and powers are other names for angels in the Bible, but it could also mean rulers of the nations, leaders of our nations. And they can also act to impede our relationship with God and God's love for us. They could try to separate us from God's love, but Paul says they can't separate us from God's love. They may outlaw Christianity, but they can't outlaw God's love. And Paul's reminding us, reminding the people in Rome, that they cannot. Neither things present nor future. Time can't separate us from God's love. Things that happened before in your past, things that are happening now, things that will happen in the future, no matter what those things are, they will not be able to separate us from God's love. Neither height nor depth. No place on earth. There's no place on earth that God's love will not find you. No state of mind. No geographic mountain. No oceanic trench. God's love is so big and broad it covers every square inch of this world, this solar system, this galaxy, and this universe. No matter where we are, there is God's love. No, nor anything else in all creation, nothing in all of creation has the power to separate us from God. What is it? Nothing. Say it. Nothing. So what is it that separates from God? You say, wait a second, Dan, you just said nothing can separate us from God's love. Nothing has the power to separate us from God's love. And that's what Paul is saying.